Windchime existed within a ring of snowy silence, nestled upon the craggy outcrop of a mountain range where the snow was not a mere weather phenomenon, but a profound preservative. It sealed away all sound and, seemingly, the very passage of time itself, turning the houses into a frozen caravan tightly pressed together and awaiting a reluctant dawn. The only persistent sound capable of piercing this dense quiet was the deep, rhythmic pulse of the grand pendulum echoing from the tallest tower. Here dwelled Elias, the keeper of that beat, a lean man whose life was woven into the fabric of his countless mechanical kingdom, a realm where every cog and spring was known to his scrupulous hands better than his own ascetic, wrinkled face. Elias maintained the subtle, almost invisible harmony between the strict measure of mechanical time and the slow, sluggish rhythm of the outside world. Yet, Christmas for him had long since lost any internal luminescence, becoming merely another, the coldest cycle on the calendar, a season he needed only to meticulously see through. Ignoring the scent of celebration and the scattered lights drifting up from the city below, his morning commenced with ritualistic, almost meditative movements, executed with the cold, flawless precision of a perfectly maintained mechanism. Yet, in these pre-holiday days, he began to perceive an unnatural tension within the tower's very vibration, as if an invisible string in the air had been drawn tauter than ever before. Elias recalled the fire that had once consumed him while working on his grand design, the chronometer of silence. A mechanism intended not merely to measure time but to govern it, meant to be his life's crowning achievement. But on the eve of that particular Christmas, with his work nearing completion, he found that the key element, the arrow of balance, a tiny crystalline pin, had vanished without a trace. This silent, inexplicable theft fractured not only the masterpiece, but also his spirit, converting Christmas into the longest, coldest night of his year. And today, as the sun barely managed to pierce the low-hanging clouds, Elias sensed a profound doubt emerging in the accustomed rhythm of the tower, a staggering in the fundamental current of time itself. It was as if the hour had drawn a heavy sigh and lurched, casting the belfry's shadow a few centimeters further than its due place. Alarm, a sensation utterly foreign to his measured life, drove Elias to immediately descend into the city to examine its mechanical echo, and there he found utter chaos. The clock on the town hall was 3 minutes ahead and moved in spasms, accelerating for a heartbeat before hesitating, as if struck by profound mechanical indecision. The blacksmith's clock conversely displayed the correct hour, yet its hand advanced with an unnatural, sickly slowness, as if struggling through an invisible, viscous medium. In the labyrinth of narrow, snow-choked streets, the baker's timepiece had simply ceased, frozen at 10:30, while in the postmaster's home, the delicate second hand of the family clock was moving in reverse, counting time backward, even as the watch on Elias's wrist confirmed. The external world marched inexorably forward. All these scattered, contradictory malfunctions indicated that the root cause was not rust or mere mechanical fatigue, but some potent external influence seeping past the sturdy brass casings and disrupting the fundamental logic of time at Windchime's very core. The clocks were now only its distorted, erroneous reflections, hinting at a deep metaphysical and perhaps even emotional failure. By dusk, exhausted and certain that the chaos stemmed not from mechanical failure, but from the absence of some crucial balance, Elias retreated to the tower. There, his hand instinctively reached for a dusty, forgotten cabinet where years of unused tools and abandoned projects resided. He retrieved a heavy wooden box secured by a copper lock. Inside lay the exhaustive blueprints of the chronometer of silence, his greatest failure and his greatest dream. Amidst the complex lines and mathematical symbols, he found a pristine sketch of that singular missing element, the arrow of balance. Beneath the drawing, inscribed in ink so faint as to be nearly invisible, was a single line he had always overlooked, a seemingly careless annotation. Under the snow where the wind begins to ring. He understood instantly. This was no mere poetic metaphor, but an instruction, a cipher hidden within the very name of his city, Windchime. It was a direct hint to a specific mountain pass or narrow gorge where the wind, slicing through the rocky outcrops, created a characteristic melodic whistling sound, echoing the distant chime of bells. To locate this precise point, Elias turned to the only reliable source that could possibly house such specific, localized knowledge, the dusty, long-forgotten maps and archives buried in the deepest recesses of his tower, far beneath his mechanical kingdom. Descending into the subchamber, permeated by the scent of damp earth and ancient parchment, he searched among the relics until his hands grasped a coarsely bound leather tome, an atlas dating back centuries to a time when Windchime was merely a small settlement of ore miners. On one of the charcoal-penciled maps, he discovered a specific marking in the exact area where, by his memory, the wind often traversed, weaving its characteristic howling melodies. It was a symbol, a stylized image, resembling a musical note accompanied by text in archaic script. The mountain pass of crystal tears, so named because melting ice constantly formed drops that, when caught by the draft in their descent, issued the thinnest, ringing sound like weeping glass. The preparation for the journey was methodical, executed with the precision of setting the most intricate clockwork. Elias, a man who had not left his tower for decades, was now compelled to venture into the heart of the snowy mountain wilderness. He retrieved old, stiff, yet incredibly warm mountain boots, a woolen cloak with a fur collar, and thick gloves meticulously chosen to shield his hands, his most invaluable tools, from the biting wind. Every item was inspected with the same exacting accuracy he reserved for checking a balanced spring. The single most important object was a small, velvet-lined brass case which he had prepared for the safe conveyance of the arrow of balance, understanding that its eventual transport demanded absolute, almost religious caution. When ready, he ascended to the main chamber for one final glance at the grand pendulum, which swung with a visible but deceitful calm. Taking a massive lantern, its light sliced through the dense darkness that had enveloped Windchime. The profound silence on the streets below spoke of the deep temporal slumber into which the city had been plunged. Stepping out of the tower's massive doors, Elias was instantly assaulted by the frosty, prickly air, saturated with the finest ice crystals. He inhaled the cold, clean breath, like a purification from the decades of stagnant workshop heat. The city lay dormant, beneath a blanket of heavy virgin snow. His lantern's light snatched high, snow-laden roofs and tree silhouettes from the gloom, their shadows stretched unnaturally long, as if time and space were already warped by the temporal chaos below. He moved slowly toward the outskirts. The dull, compressing crunch of his boots on the snow was the only evidence of movement in that frozen world. He relied heavily on instinct and his compass, for the trail quickly vanished into an invisible swath beneath the deep snowdrifts. The ascent was more than physically challenging. It was a grueling test of his will. The higher he climbed, the fiercer the wind became. It did not merely howl. It whistled, wailed, and resonated with a thin, metallic ring as it passed through the icy formations on the rock faces, creating that very distinctive wind-chime sound that became his solitary guide. The climb was utterly grueling, but the piercing, resonant sound of the wind, a sound mirroring the signal his chronometer was designed to emit, served as a flawless navigator, keeping Elias firmly on course. Finally, he emerged onto an open stretch where the wind struck with renewed, penetrating force. Ahead, illuminated by a pale moonlight, appeared the entrance to a narrow gorge, cluttered with bizarre, almost sculptural ice formations. This was, without a doubt, the mountain pass of crystal tears. It resembled a great, cracked crystal itself, its walls layered in frozen water that reflected billions of sparks in the moonlight. Here, the wind-chime sound reached its climax, a pure, piercing resonance that seemed to emanate not externally, but from the very core of the air. Elias stepped cautiously into the gorge, utterly absorbed by the ringing sound which guided him forward along a wall coated in a thick, transparent sheet of ice, until his gaze fell upon a perfect, tiny, yet unmistakable indentation, frozen deep within the crystal-like surface. The indentation was vacant, yet its form precisely mirrored the contours of the arrow of balance, as if the delicate piece had rested there waiting for him, only to be removed very recently, leaving behind nothing but this perfect crystalline trace. The disappointment of finding the location empty was instantly replaced by a flash of revelation when his gaze dropped to the bottom of the imprint. There, carelessly etched into the ice, was another marking no longer words, but symbols, a tiny stylized image of a Christmas star framed by two crossed twigs. Elias understood this was not a secret cache, but merely a directional pointer. Whoever had taken the part had deliberately left this final vital key, one that pointed toward the true location, a place intertwined with the holiday and with nature. This revelation confirmed his long-held suspicion about the profound metaphysical nature of the component's disappearance. He descended the pass hastily, yet with meticulous caution, his mind working with stunning speed as it processed the symbols, the star and the twigs. This could only signify one location. The oldest and tallest fir tree in Windchime, the single spot the residents, despite their loss of faith in time, still bothered to adorn with garlands every year. The tree stood at the very center of the main square, directly before his tower, and it alone retained an internal, non-mechanical connection to the spirit of the holiday. Elias ran through the snowy city, heedless of the cold, When he reached the square, his heart nearly seized. He saw the grand fir tree, its apex crowned by the massive antique brass star he remembered from his own youth. Drawing closer, he raised his lantern and saw that the star was fastened not with ordinary wire, but by a tiny, fiercely shimmering crystalline pin, the piece he instantly and unequivocally recognized. The arrow of balance had been here all along, visible to everyone, yet masked by meaning. The one who removed it had not wished to steal time, but to demonstrate that true temporal balance resided not in mechanics, but in faith, in wonder, and in the very spirit of Christmas. Elias carefully extracted the crystal, his thin hands trembling with cold and the sheer gravity of the moment. Immediately he felt the world around him subtly shift, and the profound silence of Windchime was instantly infused with something vital and new. Rushing back to the tower, he ascended rapidly to the chronometer of silence, which awaited its true hour. As the arrow of balance slid into its rightful socket, the mechanism responded with a gentle, almost musical click. In that exact instant, every city clock that had been living in chaos synchronized with perfect, unbreakable accuracy. The external world ceased to be frozen. Outside, directly beneath his window, the first clean, true Christmas laugh rang out. Elias realized then that he had restored not just time, but hope.